Governor, how do you feel about national party big money being poured into a specific candidate before the state has a chance to have their own primary and make up their own minds?
I don't know what big money you're talking to. I don't have the big money here. I don't have big money from the National Party. What, are you kidding me?
And by the way, I think your ads are divisive and odious. You never gave a good explanation as to why you snubbed the tribes on that.
I don't just talk the talk. I walk the walk. I've gotten shit done.
What happens when a sitting governor walks into a room full of her own voters, Democrats, party officers, people who knock doors for her, and they call her attack ads divisive and odious to her face? What does odious mean? I think I know what it means. What happens when a woman who identifies as a Me Too tells the governor that the ad designed to appeal to women like her actually offended her? What happens when a former state representative tells the governor she's doing the Republicans' opponent's job for her? We're gonna break down what's going on with this Zoom recording because the governor has some things to say. My name is Hannibal. Let's get into it. Maine has one of the biggest Senate races in the country this cycle. Republican Susan Collins, 5 terms, been in that seat since 1996. She's finally looking vulnerable. Democrats need to flip this seat if they have any shot of taking back the Senate. The Democratic establishment recruited Governor Janet Mills, 2-term governor, former attorney general. On paper, this is the safe pick, the establishment pick. Then this guy by the name of Graham Platner shows up. He's 41. He's an oyster farmer. He's a Marine combat veteran, served in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he's running as an anti-establishment populist. Bernie Sanders endorsed him. Elizabeth Warren endorsed him as well. The UAW endorsed him as well. The IBEU sent a letter to Chuck Schumer telling him to back off and stop supporting Mills because her record with labor is, and I'm quoting the union here, is fraud. In the polls, it's not close. The most recent Emerson College poll has Platner leading Mills by 27 points. Platner leads Collins by 7 points. Mills and Collins are basically tied. He's been leading among men and women. He outraised her $7.8 million to $2.6. And the head-to-head matchups against Susan Collins, Platner leads Collins by 7 points. Mills and Collins are basically tied. So Mills is losing to an oyster farmer. Now, no hate for oyster farmers. I love oysters. They're delicious. I don't eat enough of them. Let me know if you guys love oysters. A nice beer and oysters, it's fantastic. But that's not the point of this video. Let's talk about this. She's losing to an oyster farmer, and her response is that she started to launch attack ads. On March 17th, Mills put out an ad highlighting Reddit post that Platner made in 2013, over a decade ago, where he made offensive comments about sexual assault.
Did you know Graham Platner wrote that women worried about need to, quote,
not get so up they wind up having sex with someone they don't mean to.
That's a clip from a new ad Governor Janet Mills put out Tuesday morning, citing Graham Platner's alleged Reddit posts that he says are around 13 years old.
Those posts were already reported back in October. Platner already apologized for them publicly. He did a 5-minute video. He'd done nearly 50 town halls across Maine answering questions about this directly.
Platner saying that he does not hold these beliefs, nor does he feel that these comments represent who he is or what his campaign is running on, adding that he is remorseful about those posts.
When I read through my old internet posts, when they resurfaced 6 months ago, I was horrified. I did not recognize in them myself or the man that I am today. I didn't recognize myself in this person that was struggling to find meaning and posted awful things 13 years ago. I am sorry.
But Mills decided to run those ads anyway, and then she walked into Hancock County, Platner's home county, to face the local Democrats. Someone recorded this, and Drop Site News published the footage. It was pretty chaotic. Let's go through the clips. So in the first clip, you're going to hear 2 things back to back. First, a woman who identifies as a part of the Me Too generation tells Mills directly that her attack ad offended her. Then a former state representative, Mark With, calls her ads divisive and odious and tells her that she's doing Susan Collins' work for her. Then he goes in on her record, talking about tribal sovereignty, snubbing the tribes at a historic address, vetoing gun safety laws.
Say that I'm a member of the Me Too generation, and I was offended by your ad, and I would very much like you to run a clean campaign. Like Joe Baldacci said, let's have a positive campaign. I don't think anybody should be attacking another Democrat right before the primary and using underhanded means and using that kind of language.
Yeah. I think the voters of Maine have a right to know of the choice in front of them.
Yeah, I think your ads are divisive and odious. And you are doing Susan Collins' work for her. Legislature, I was very disappointed about your record on tribal sovereignty and labor and gun safety bills, such as your veto of the red flag law. But what really annoyed me at that time was how you snubbed the tribes in the State of the Tribes address. Now, it was the first time in the history of the state of Maine that all 4 tribes had their chiefs represented in addressing the legislature. Congressman Golden made sure he was there. The state Supreme Court was there, the House was there, the Senate was there. You could not be bothered to walk across the street and join us.
I was at the dentist getting
you never gave a good explanation as to why you snubbed the tribes on that. You said you had a conflict, and we never heard what it was. And why it was so important that you had to be somewhere else. And then, of course, you vetoed the most important tribal sovereignty bills.
So let's try to understand what just happened here. The entire strategy of the attack ad is to appeal to women who care about sexual assault. Sexual assault survivors, the Me Too movement, that was the target audience. And the very first person to speak is a woman from the exact demographic telling Mills, "Your ad offended me," not Platner's old posts. Your ad. Then the former state legislator, a minister, a Democrat who served along Mills' allies, stands up and says that the ads are doing the Republicans' job for her. And he doesn't stop there. He goes after her actual governing record. Now, there's some situation with the tribal sovereignty issue, the gun bill veto, the State of the Tribes address where she couldn't be bothered to walk across the street. This isn't opposition research from Republicans. These are Democrats reading her the receipts on her own record. Now, this is where it gets worse for Mills. Her entire campaign is built on one word, electability. She keeps saying that she's the one that can beat Susan Collins. She is a safe choice. She's won statewide before. But in this next clip, one of Platner's supporters, who identifies himself as a friend of Platner, directly confronts Mills with the polling data. And Mills' response tells you everything that you need to know.
I wanted to say, first and foremost, you said electability is what you were looking for here. And if you truly do believe that, and you've read the polls, which I would imagine that you have, that isn't the case. I was going to say, do you believe in a Maine and a country where a person can be redeemed, where they can change and become a better version of themselves? And if not, why?
With all due respect, that's not the issue about your friend Graham. It's just not the issue. The issue is who can beat Susan Collins. This is such an urgent thing, an urgent issue. And man, I'm not doing this because I need a job or I need to increase my, I don't need a title or a position. I'm not going to live there forever. But I want to get in there and beat Susan Collins and take over the United States Senate. I think we know control of the United States Senate goes through Maine right now. Whether he's reformed or thinks better, thinks differently, I don't know. It's not the call, my call. It's not the issue here. The issue is who can win against Susan Collins.
So the voter hit her with a 2-part question. One part, the polls contradict your electability argument. Part 2, do you believe in redemption? And Mills dodged both questions. She did not address the polling that's going against her, obviously, because she can't. Since October, there has been 8 head-to-head polls between the Democrat candidates and Susan Collins. Platner led Collins in 7 of them. Mills led Collins in just 1. Her electability argument is not supported by a single credible data point. And the redemption question, she just waited off. Quote unquote, whether he's reformed is not the call. But it is the call for a lot of Democratic voters. Platner has been doing the town halls. He's been answering questions about those old posts face to face for months. His response ad literally says, don't judge me for the worst thing I said on the internet on my worst day 14 years ago. Whether voters accept that framing or not, it's a legitimate question. But Mills refusing to engage with it tells you that she's just not interested in persuasion. And here's another thing that she did in this meeting that no one caught at the time. Mills claimed on camera that Platner's very first ad was an ad against me with kids and women saying that I was too old. Drop Site News checked The ad doesn't exist. Platner launched a 2-minute video about affordability that targeted billionaires and corrupt politicians. There was no mention of Janet Mills because she hasn't even entered the race yet when his first ad dropped. His campaign launched in August. She did not enter until October. She made a false claim to a room full of voters to justify her own attack ads. Not a good idea. Now, this last clip is the one that really tells the story because it's not just what happened during the meeting, it's what happened after.
I did, all right? I don't just talk the talk. I walk the walk. I've gotten shit done, so to speak. Sorry to swear, but I have gotten a lot done. And I've led us through a terrible pandemic and through a terrible, tragic shooting in Lewiston. We've had tough times together, and we've gotten through them because I've got good people on my team. And we enjoy good leadership with the legislature and legislative leaders as well.
Yeah, the sitting governor of Maine dropped that line at a Democratic Party meeting and then signs off. But the Zoom kept recording, and Hancock County Democrats, thinking that they are talking privately, start saying what they really think.
Yeah, I'm sad. It's too bad she missed the Zoom chats she was going to read.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I was a little bit discouraged with that because we talked about it earlier and she was going to monitor that. And she asked that people put it in the chat so she would read it, but she only went once, so.
I put it in 2 or 3 times.
You did, I know, John. I can understand your frustration. I was ready to call on you myself, but that's not my position. I'm not even a member of Hancock County Dems yet.
The whole committee was so
You can
brave.
join.
What's that, John?
I said the whole committee was so brave in signing that letter. 6 officers in October asking her to go to court to follow up what Hannibal did so well. And she can still go to court as governor.
So let's unpack what just happened. Mills committed to reading the Zoom chat questions. Multiple organizers confirmed that she agreed to monitor it, but then she blew it off. She read one question, just one, while people were submitting questions 2-3 times to try to get her attention. One organizer said that they were ready to call on a specific person, never got asked because Mills controlled the flow and cut things short. And then the biggest reveal, the Hancock County Democrat Committee, 6 officers have already signed a letter back in October pushing Mills to take action on a legal issue. This wasn't a spontaneous backlash. This was an accumulation. The local Democrat leadership have already broken with Mills months before this meeting even happened. And now, just this weekend, it got even worse. Mills pulled out of an April 11th debate. 900 people had registered. The organizers have been advertising this for weeks that all candidates were attending. The moderator, journalist Holland Woodard, posted that Mills pulled out and called it disappointing for primary voters and maybe not optimal if you're behind by 30 points in the polls. Mills' campaign said that she never confirmed, but Dropside News is also reporting that she skipped the April 16th forum hosted by the Penobscot Nation after she just got grilled in a leaked video about her records with the tribes. You cannot make this up. And apparently Axios is reporting that Platner's campaign is telling the donors that the primary is over. They're pivoting to the general election 2 months early. They're pulling down their response ads to Mills and launching ads against Susan Collins instead. So here's why this story matters beyond just Maine. This is the same pattern we've seen over and over again, that the Democrat establishment recruits the safe candidate, the one with the resume, the relationships, the institutional backing. Chuck Schumer makes the call, the DSCC opens the checkbook, and then the base says no. Mills has a 40% approval rating in the most recent Emerson poll. The Democrat candidates running to replace her as governor won't even endorse her signature budget proposal, the $300 relief checks. Former state Senate President Troy Jackson, who's running for governor, who has been critical of Mills on tribal rights, taxes, labor, and prescription drugs, he said, and this is a direct quote, "It is amazing what a difference a year makes. I guess all we needed was for Graham to get in the Senate race." Even the unions are revolting. The UAW president personally called Chuck Schumer and tell him to stop backing Mills. One union official told NBC News that if Mills somehow wins the primary, and I'll quote this, "You'll see a lot of unions supporting Collins, a Republican, over the Democrat nominee." Mills is losing her own base, not to Republicans, not to outside agitators, to her own record. Her own voters looked at the receipts and said, "We've had enough." The June 9th primary is 2 months away. Mills is down double digits in every credible poll. Her attack attack ads backfired with her own base. She's ducking debates. Her own party labor unions are telling Washington to stop propping her up. And now you see this leaked video from Hancock County shows you what's really happening on the ground. Democrats are grilling their own governor, calling her ads odious, questioning her record, and then when they think the cameras are off, expressing real frustration that she wouldn't even engage with their questions. This is what accountability looks like, not from the opposition, but from the base. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. And if you are new here, this is what we do every single day. If you're interested to follow this type of content, hit like, subscribe, hype, all those good things. Appreciate all of the support. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.